Hey, it's Austin James. Yes, I'm living with diabetes, but it doesn't have to define me. Thanks to the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor, I get real-time glucose readings throughout the day. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor is small and easy to wear, giving me the freedom to focus on my life as a parent and a musician. Now this is progress. You can get a free sensor at freestylelibre.us.
Offer available for people who qualify. Visit myfreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Certain exclusions apply. Data on file. Abbott Diabetes Care. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
The wrongs we must right. The fights we must win. The future we must secure together for our nation. This is what's in front of us. This determines what's next for all of us. We are Marines. We were made for this.
This episode is brought to you by NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. There's a lot to be thankful for this season. For one, I'm thankful you can get NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV right now for only $209. It's exactly what you need as we head right into the playoffs. You can invite your friends over. Maybe you have a multi-view. You could have 4 different games, one for you, one each for the 3 other friends you invite. You can change the games around as soon as a game, the outcome becomes pretty certain. Dump that game, put in another one. I've become the multi-view master. The moment the one of the games is losing steam, I'm ready to move right in and move it for another one. Build your own multi-view. One of my favorite words. Thank yourself this holiday season. Get NFL Sunday Ticket for the rest of the NFL regular season for just $209. Sign up now at youtube.com/BS. Terms and embargoes apply. Device and content restrictions apply. No cancellations.
Hello and welcome to Islanders Anxiety from Lighthouse Hockey and the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me on this Sunday evening, hours after the Islanders lost to the Chicago Blackhawks, is my friend Michael Leboff. And Mike, I don't know what to say. This is a team that I'm not 100% sure is actually trying to win games. And I think today's game might be the best evidence yet that maybe they just sort of like coming to the rink with each other, like playing with each other, like traveling together as a group. But something about this game has really, really made me mad. And something about the post-game video has made me even more mad. We'll get to all of that soon. But how mad on a scale of 1 to 10 are you after losing a game to the worst team in the NHL who was on a back-to-back on a Sunday afternoon?
Pretty damn mad. I mean, I guess it's a 10.
Right.
I feel like you know that saying, "Oh, someone caught a stray," just like randomly, right? I feel like that's what this game was. Like, it's a Sunday afternoon. We're in the throes of the holiday season. Christmas lights are turning on because it's a 3 p.m. start. Gets dark early. Christmas decorations out. Gonna eat dinner soon, and the Islanders pop on the TV at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and takes 59 minutes for them to do it, but they ruined the night. I felt like I caught a stray. Like, this game didn't have to happen in so many different ways. It felt like the start time was weird. It was a weird part of the schedule. This whole thing, like the weird home and home with this Blackhawks team. I feel like I caught a stray from the hockey gods here, and it was another like hurtful loss. I'm at the point now where I think it's okay to take these things as personal right? Like this is a
Right.
they're personal attacks.
Yeah.
I wrote them down here. I've separated the Islanders' schedule so far. They played 30 games into 4 categories. One of which is the feel bad win, which you geniusly coined last season. I have 4 of those jotted down. Montreal early on, the Devils game, which they won in overtime, the Senators game when they got outshot and won, and then the Blackhawks game from the other night, which I now 100% qualify as a feel bad win because of the way that game ended, and then when you throw this game on top of it. So that's 4.
That was a borderline one, but I'm willing to put that in that.
Now, now that this happened, right?
Right.
Then I had 8 good or / normal wins, just run of the mill wins that happen in a NHL season.
I can't believe it's even that high.
I know. I was. This is how much thought went into this, right? I said if I'm going to put the Chicago game into the feel bad win category, I should be a little generous here. So I have that Colorado game, the 2 Buffalo wins, the win over the Blues, the Vancouver game, the first Ottawa win, that rousing win over Pittsburgh on election night when they came back.
Right.
The Islanders, I think that's their only. We can make even another category, which is rousing win, like a come from behind gutsy performance. So I put that one in there. And I don't know which one I didn't mention, but I have 8 jotted down. So those are your 12 wins. Then I wrote normal losses. Dallas, that first week of the season where everyone thought they were turning their season around. The second game of the year. Oh, they're turning it around because they got shut out by the Stars, but played well. The Rangers game. I threw the Edmonton loss in here. Even though they got outplayed, they stole a point. So whatever. Yeah. The Seattle one was just like a normal bad bounce at the end. I think they played well. Whatever, that happens throughout a season. Boston, normal loss. The Kings game from this week was a normal loss, and I have the Canadiens overtime loss, which I think is borderline feel bad or hurtful loss.
Yeah.
So that's 7. So there's 7 normal-ish losses, and losses stink no regardless whether they're normal or hurtful, personal. You can take the type of losses that are cruel, hurtful. So right away, 7 losses. That's still a good chunk of your schedule through 30 games, and it's annoying. And then I have 13 hurtful losses that I think the Islanders personally attacked all of us, like when you're in 7th grade and someone who you consider to be a really good friend of yours does something really dickish, and you go home to your parents and you're like, this happened, and like even they feel like, oh, God, that's so wrong. I feel terrible for our son or daughter. Like keeps them up at night. Bully, like a bully thing,
right?
So bullying losses, but I'm just gonna call them hurtful. 13 of them through 30 games.
Let me guess. Opening night is one.
Opening night is number 1 for sure. There obviously no wins in these hurtful losses, but 9-4. So 9 regulation losses, 4 overtime losses. And I just want to read through them because I think it's important. The whole theme of my episode here is this isn't normal the way that this is going. And there seems to be a disconnect between the team, as you're going to talk about later, like the team and the powers that be around the team, and the fans. Because when this stuff happens, we're like, this keeps happening. It's not fun. It's not fair to us as fans. Right. It's not how a sporting relationship is supposed to really work.
Right.
So when you're put through the ringer like this 13 individual times in 30 games or 32 games, whatever it's been, and you have 50 more of these to go, which means, okay, we're not even halfway through the season. So the Islanders are on pace for nearly 30 hurtful, cruel losses, bullying losses. Yeah, so I have Utah, the St. Louis game where they got shut out. All 3 Detroit losses.
Yes.
The Florida Panthers game where they went up 3-0 and lost.
Yep.
They ended up getting blown out in after they took a 3-0 lead.
Right.
I have the Ducks and Blue Jackets in there.
100%.
Yep. The Devils overtime loss in which they did the same thing to the Devils last year and then did it again.
Yeah.
The Kraken, one of the Kraken losses, I honestly just feel
the first
like
one I think was
the
worse.
cruel one.
Yeah,
yes,
that was the come from behind. The other one was just a listless normal.
Right. Yes, that happens. You're right. So the Kraken game, the Calgary game, in which they were up late in Calgary. The Capitals game, they were up 4-2.
Yes.
And
Lost
blew
5-4. Yeah.
And then, of course, that brings us to the creme de la creme of them all, perhaps, like taking on the 32nd best hockey team in the world, the Chicago Blackhawks, tonight. So, yeah, you said you were mad. I was mad.
Yeah.
But for the 13th time this season, we're mad. Like,
right.
and this kind of mad, not just, oh man, they played well but lost to the Stars. It's gonna happen. That's sports. That's hockey. That's how this works. You have to be able to live with that. Not, this is the 13th time that I've watched this team blow a game where they should have won, or get shut out by the Ducks or the Blue Jackets, or I'm losing sleep over this team when I shouldn't. I now have to go eat dinner in a couple like in an hour because the game was at 3:00. Like, come on, this is no way to treat anyone. And as you're going to go into, the response is not, yeah, this is pathetic. This is, a terrible thing that's going on. This is needs to stop. It's, oh man, today was a grind.
Right.
Good hockey team over there. Got to give them credit. I just can't take it anymore. I don't know how anyone could take 13 of these things through 32 games. It's almost half.
Yeah.
There's a 50% chance, flip a coin when you go sit on the couch to start watching the Islanders this season, whether or not you're going to be incredibly hurt deep down, like you just got bullied, or the other three outcomes, so it's either 50% that or 50% split into thirds of, it's going to be a feel bad win, which is still not a great feeling, a normal loss, which is not a great feeling, or a good win, 8 out of 32. So there's a 25% chance it might be good. Yeah. I don't know. It's not fun. It's not, even the fun parts are not fun. The Islanders, when they took that penalty late in the game, or the Blackhawks took the penalty late in the game, there's not one Islander fan that was happy to see the Islanders go on a power play late in the game. We all this is the worst thing that could happen.
Oh, it happened way before that. It was getting Matt Barzal back. Yeah. That's supposed to be, and Adam Pelech for that matter. That's supposed to be like a, phew, wow, this is great. We've made it out of the tunnel. We're into this part now where we have survived. We have kept our head above water long enough to still be in this thing. And now we're getting two of our better players back. And I couldn't even be excited because I knew what was coming, because you and me, all of us listening to this have seen this team with these two guys disappoint us repeatedly over and over again over the last couple of years. So when the power play is out there with 3 minutes to go, and don't worry, we're going to talk all about the game in a couple of minutes, and it's doing absolutely nothing, and all it is Barzal passing the puck back and forth, trying to get it to the guy standing in the slot so that he can do absolutely nothing with it, because that's the only play they have on the damn power play. It's just, I've seen this before, and I'm just getting more and more mad watching it happen. I don't care who's on it. Like, it's just this, like you said, the fun parts aren't fun, and the bad parts are very frequent, as you just pointed out. That's insane to me. And I don't think, normally we would sit here and be like, this is kind of an Islanders only problem, but just before we came on, the Sabres lost their 10th game in a row and actually had, I think, a 3-0 lead on the Leafs, and then ended up losing like 5-3 or whatever it was. So, this stuff can happen to other teams, but this is just, it doesn't make it right. Like, it doesn't make this fun. And it's just this, and we'll talk about again in a few minutes, but the disconnect between the people on the ice and on the bench and in the front office, and the way the fans feel about this team and the way they play could not be further apart. Like, they are looking at this in one way, and the rest of us are looking at it another way. And I don't know how this gets bridged. We can talk about fixes. Obviously, they made one pretty sizable move that we'll talk about in a little bit this week. But these guys are looking at this in a way that I don't think is helpful to them. We talked about the toxic positivity last time. They're still doing it, and I just don't think that what they're doing is helpful. And it certainly isn't helpful for us. And when they return home in a couple of games, if they haven't made some serious wins, here, and made some inroads and, gotten back into the playoff mix here. They're only a point out, but it's not enough. Nobody's buying this. Nobody's buying what they're selling, I guess, is probably the easiest way to put it. Like, I can't imagine somebody out there being like, yeah, man, they almost had it. They were just right there. If you are, maybe you're a better fan than I am, because I'm just I'm just incredibly mad still about this. Okay, we're gonna dive into everything. Quick reminder that we're on Patreon, patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. You know the deal. You can gift Patreon subscriptions. So if you want somebody to listen to our stuff over at the Patreon, and we got a lot of stuff coming up. We'll talk about it this week. Get them to, you can gift them a month free or, for Christmas at patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Again, we have a ton of stuff coming up. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Okay. So do we just want to talk about Sunday's game? So we could mention the LA game. They lost 3-1.
Yeah. Normal loss.
Yeah. Normal loss.
Really all we need to go into.
Kings playing one sport, the Islanders playing another. Anders Lee scored. It was nice. Passed John Tavares for 8th on the team's all-time goal scoring list. But that was about it. Sorokin was good. Darcy Kemper was good when it needed to be, but it was good versus bad, and the Kings won 6 straight games. They would also beat up on the Rangers, so that's nice, but they did before they practiced on the Islanders before that. Then the Islanders beat the Blackhawks 5-4 on Thursday. And the only thing to really note about this is they were up 4-1 5-1 halfway through the third period, and the Blackhawks stormed back with 3 goals late. Again, they made it 5-4. They made it really interesting. And for the first time this season, Patrick Waugh was mad. Team got a win, but he was very, very pissed off that his team hung his goalie out to dry and let in all those goals, and said that, if it was him in net, he would have broken a stick into the locker room or something because he was mad. And you can't do that. Ilya's a gentleman. He wouldn't get that mad, but he was pretty pissed off about how that game unfolded at the end. And, a win is a win. That was a feel-bad win for sure. You can't let a team come back and score 3 goals, and 2 of them to the same guy, Tyler Bertuzzi. But it was pretty bad. So that brings us to today's game. 5-3 loss at Chicago against those same Blackhawks, who, shockingly, did not get any better between the time they lost to the Islanders on Thursday and the time they played the Islanders on Sunday. In fact, they played a game in between. They played a game on Saturday afternoon against the Devils and lost pretty huge. And so the Islanders are coming in on Sunday against the worst team in the NHL, playing on a back-to-back, and basically just, I don't know, did what they normally do. We'll go through the game in detail right now, but Bo Horvat did not play. He's injured. We don't really know what's going on, but apparently it's a short-term thing. But where do you want to start with this one? I guess the first period, which maybe wasn't that good.
I think let's start with Patrick Waugh's comments after the first game, because I think that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, it was the first time, I think, since I remember when the Islanders were struggling last year a little bit. There was he like yelled at them in a practice, and it was covered. You'd think Luke Fox Jukebox descended on the Islanders beat for a minute with the way that Patrick was like yelling at practice was covered. Yeah. And yeah, since then it's been all positive, and I understand why. I think he's trying to shed a little bit of a reputation of being, very ornery, fiery kind of guy, both as player and as coach as a first time around. I actually appreciate the way that he, especially in the beginning, talked about building trust between the fans and the team, and like wanting to put on good showing for them and work hard for the fans and all that. Just acknowledging us, because I think that Lane Lambert didn't really do that as a coach. So it was nice to have that back. And then this time he gets mad, and it was very funny that this was what sparked him, because it's a very personal thing. Right? As a goalie, I'm sure it pissed him off quite a bit to see that happen. And I was really excited that it happened, honestly. And that's hypocritical of me, because I think that coach speak is basically worth its weight in sand, and words don't weigh anything. It's just air. I think that coach speak is almost always overrated by the way that sports media is covered, because if as we saw from last year, when Sheldon Keefe said anything remotely off script, it became 3 hours of talk radio on Kipper and Bourne and beyond. And once again, we're the losers because we listened to it and then would laugh at it. But I was like, well, when a coach doesn't do that often on this side, like I'm being negative, maybe it does carry weight, and the Islanders will come out with their hair on fire. Matt Barzell's back at practice, and his smile, Dan, I don't know if you heard, is infectious. Bubbly personality on that Matt Barzell. Hell, I missed him. Adam Pelech.
Yeah.
He's back. So coach is mad. Star player's back with his infectious smile and his great hair. One of the kind of team spirit animals is also back as well from a really gruesome, unlucky injury. Playing the 32nd best team in the NHL, fighting for their lives in the playoffs, which they never do this early in the season. Right. Usually it's just coast to the finish line and the Islanders are in. It's never like this, right? Right. No, they're in a familiar spot because every point matters, even here before Christmas. I was expecting that door to open, the Islanders to fly out and take control of this game because the other team is the 32nd best team in the NHL, which, hey, they did play the number 32 team in the world, so it's a good hockey team over there. But I thought they were going to come out like gangbusters because I'm an idiot. And instead, they pitched their 5th consecutive bad first period, I believe.
Yeah. Because they had a bad start in the game they won against the Blackhawks, too.
Yes. Yeah. Their first period against the Blackhawks was bad. Their first period against the Kings was really bad. The first period against the Senators was pretty bad. The first period, actually, it's their 7th, if you think, because they weren't great against the Canadians out of the gate. They weren't good against the Kraken out of the gate. That was really bad. Carolina, Ottawa, LA, and Chicago. So they come out completely flat. And for the first 4 minutes, from the first 4 or 5 shifts of that game, I was like, I knew that this was going to end with me being sad at dinner. And that's that simple. You could tell with this team right away that they're going to ruin your night. And that's what they did.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they always do, it seems. But yeah, so they come out slow. They give up the first goal. It's Ilya Mikheyev in front. Nice pass from Teuvo Teravainen, who had 3 points, I believe, in the game from behind the net. A couple minutes later, Ryan Pulock tees up a 101-mile-an-hour slap shot from the corner, ties the game, kind of sneaks through Anders Soderblom, I think it was his name, or Arvid Soderblom, sorry. And it gets through, and we heard all about Ryan Pulock's 100-mile-an-hour slap shot. It's an incredible thing. He finally unleashed it. This is great. This is the first time I think Ryan Pulock has hit the net this season. And I was like, you know what? How many goals has he even had? Ryan Pulock has had a streak of 3 straight seasons in which he has scored exactly 5 goals in the season. So this was number 1. So he's got 4 more in him this season. So congrats, Ryan. We're rooting for you. Maybe you can unleash that 100-mile-an-hour slap shot 4 more times, and then you'll be good. But then, and you thought, okay, it's been bad. They tied the game, whatever. Literally a minute later, Taylor Hall from Teravainen again makes a 2-1. Hall off to the side. Puck sneaks to him and gets, Sorokin had no chance on it. Just a bad goal. And exactly the type of response you didn't want. And this, at this point, is shaping up to be a real classic sort of throwback Islanders game. They give up the first goal. They're playing poorly. It's a bad start. They get it tied, but then immediately give up the lead goal again. And it was just a bad period all around. Not the kind of thing you want to see again against the 32nd best team in the league. Again, and I got to remind everybody, they're in a back-to-back. They were on the road in New Jersey on Saturday, and now they're home.
And I keep bringing up how eerily similar this is to last year. It's down to a specific level.
This was the game that got Lane Lambert fired.
Yeah, and the Blackhawks were on a back-to-back on that game because they got stuck in Buffalo from a
Right.
They had to postpone a game to Wednesday night. And so they stayed in Buffalo, played on that Wednesday. Then they flew home in that snowstorm back to Chicago to play the Islanders, who were in Chicago waiting for them. And the Islanders put up a dud. And the next thing you know, I'm on a plane home from Mexico, and Patrick Waz, the coach of the New York Islanders, down to even. And so down to even that is how. And you wonder why people are losing their minds. Of course they're losing. They're blowing leads to the Devils again, the same way they did last year. They blew a lead in Calgary on the Western Conference, the Western Canadian swing, and it's so annoying, and it makes you wonder if this is even all real. That this is happening down to that specific a level again.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy. It's insane. And like all of this is deja vu. And it's only going to get worse during the course of this game. So the second period is better. Simon Holmstrom ties the game again with his 9th goal of the season, believe it or not. Puck goes off his skate, but he didn't kick it. He just sort of turned his skate in. Beautiful, deflection. Okay, we're tied. But then this series of penalties happens. First, it's Taylor Hall, and the Islanders have a power play. Of course, they're not doing anything with it when Maxim Sipakov takes a penalty. That's what this guy does, basically. He passes the puck and he takes penalties. So, okay, now we're 4-on-4, but then Alex Romanov takes a penalty. So now, at some point, it ends up being a 5-on-3. Teravainen again scores a power play goal like 10 seconds into the power play, and it's 3-2 Chicago. And so, like, the first half of the period was good, but then the last half was bad. It was just a complete clown show from top to bottom. I don't know what, is in at this point. Like, at first I was like, you know what, give Sipakov the benefit of the doubt. He's just coming over. It's all new thing for him. We are now 30 games into the season. Max, you got to figure this shit out, buddy. Like, I can't tell you how bad it is that you keep ending up in the penalty box at the worst possible times. Like, have you seen this team's penalty kill? Please stop going to the penalty box, please. Man. And it's a nightmare. And so it's 3-2 going into the third. And once again, good start. Noah Dobson creeps in, scores a beautiful, slick, sweet 5-hole goal. I don't know what Soderblom's problem was. He was arguing about something, but somebody basically pushed Sipakov in. I guess Sipakov got a piece of his stick while he was trying to make a save. Doesn't matter. The goal counted. It's a beautiful, beautiful goal. And we're tied at 3 again. And it stayed that way for a long time, for the most of the period. All of a sudden, the Islanders get a gift power play with about 3 minutes left. They do absolutely nothing with it. Again, these guys have one play on the power play. It goes from Barzal to the guy who's standing in the slot. Usually it's Horvat. Today it was Lee for that quick bumper shot. They will spend a minute and 50 seconds sending the puck back and forth from Barzal to Pajot, from Pajot to Barzal, from Barzal to Dobson to Barzal, to Pajot, to Dobson, to back and forth. They finally find Lee. They finally find a seam. They hit Lee in the center. What does he do? He passes to somebody else. So now what is the point of all this? This is the only play these guys have. Everybody and their grandmother can see it coming. If whoever's in the bumper slot, what is he looking at? He's not looking at an open net. He's looking at a defenseman standing in front of him because he knows what's coming. I just don't understand how these guys are like this. And if you thought that Matt Barzal was somehow going to transform this team and make them, blossom again after weeks in the wilderness without him, I got news for you. We've seen this team before with him on it. This is what they do. Their power play was terrible. But then it gets worse. So then right after the power play is over, Dennis Cholowski, I think, we're still not sure, right?
Yeah, it was him.
So he ices the puck. And this is when I texted you in our group chat, okay, now we know what's happening because we've seen this before. Remember Ryan Strome? Remember Detroit maybe 10 years ago? Bad power play, late in the game, icing. What happens?
Needless icing.
What's that?
A needless icing, too.
Totally needless icing. All somebody had to do is touch the puck. Doesn't matter. What the hell is his name? Ryan Donato wins the face-off, gets the puck around, gets a shot on net, ends up rebound going to Connor Bedard, who, by the way, was in a slump before these 2 games against the Islanders. He's got 2 goals now in these 2 games. And he sneaks it through Sorokin's arm. Sorokin had it saved between his arms, but it snuck through. And that was it. That was about 45 seconds to go. The Islanders, of course, had no time to really do anything because they are the slowest, most lackadaisical team ever. So they pull the goal, they pull Sorokin, but they don't really do anything. At one point, somebody dumped it in and then didn't even go after it. And there was like 15 seconds left on the clock. I was like, what are you doing? If you're going to dump it in that situation, somebody's got to go get it, right? This team is absolutely clueless. Anyway, Connor Murphy ends up with a really long empty net goal. And that's it, 5-3. An absolutely brutal, brutal loss. Was Sorokin good? No, not really. He made 18 saves, but he was kind of hung out to dry on a bunch of these goals. Like, the team in front of him was terrible. Soderblom made 30 saves, and I mean, he wasn't great, but he just made enough to have the team win it. This is probably the worst loss of the season, but if I went back and watched those other ones, I think maybe I would think some otherwise. Maybe this is just fresh, but this is really bad. This was brutal. Like, this was really, really, there's no overselling how bad this loss was.
Yeah, and because it's the 13th one of them.
Right.
Like, so if this was the third one, it would still suck. But it's
right.
If this happened in October, but it's the 13th one, so you have to carry all that extra baggage of those losses that pile on to this one, that leave you. And I don't even want to go into, oh man, where could this team be if they could just not do this shit? Because everyone listening to this has already gone through that, and we know where they'd be. Right? It doesn't matter. And this one ticked every box too.
Right.
The power play completely lets them down. They can't kill a penalty. I know it was a 5-on-3, but still, you got to find a way to do it. At least survive maybe the first 10 seconds of the penalty kill.
Right.
So it was almost like they just were like, look, they're gonna score. Let's just get it over with quickly. Then we'll focus on the 4 versus 5, which is actually how Butchie looked at it too. Because after the Blackhawks scored, 20 seconds later, Butch was like, "Oh, the Islanders actually doing a pretty good job here of on this kill. Like they already scored on it." but that's how low the bar is.
Don't take penalties when you're already 4-on-4. Like that's the other thing too, right? Like
I wanted to give Siplikov the benefit of the doubt because he fell, like whatever. And then I can't even come close to doing it with Romanov's penalty, and we love him, but as a player, as a person, he's a throwback. He's fun. He's certainly struggling right now, but you can forgive like 95% of delay of game puck over the glass penalties because they're just bad luck or bad bounce. Puck rolls up, whatever. That one was unforgivable, like just completely unforgivable. And they of course, as soon as that happened, the team and the fan base and the coaches and everyone's probably just like, just put the puck at center ice. It's 1-0 Blackhawks. It doesn't matter. Like it don't even need to go through the charade of JG Peugeot losing this faceoff and the Blackhawks scoring. I don't need to hear the goal song. Just drop it at center ice. Can we just get a handshake agreement on that? And yeah, I mean, and so you get the bad penalty kill. The power plays ridiculously bad.
Yeah.
And I know that the Blackhawks have the best power penalty kill in the league, which really drives home the point that it shouldn't be that hard to fix the penalty kill. And this is kind of the point that we're going to talk about a lot on the show is like the toxic positivity and the way that this team talks after these kinds of losses, which is making it worse. Like if you've been following what's going on in New Jersey with the drones, I think the thing that's pissing everybody off about it more than anything is like everyone's on like the other side of the window, like the team side, let's say, are just pretending like nothing's weird. There's nothing happening. There's nothing that needs to be explained. Right. That's how I feel about this right now. Because the fans are like, the penalty kill is 32nd in the league. The power play is 32nd in the league. You keep blowing third period leads. Every game is a bad start. You're only playing 30 minutes of a game at this point. 13 hurtful losses on the season. Can you just acknowledge it or fix it or do something rather than just pretend that we're oh, what are you guys talking about? Those are planes.
Right.
Those are just planes.
We played well.
We played good. This game was a grind. That's a good hockey team over there. They pushed. We knew they were going to push, and we just didn't get the bounces. The penalty kill, the power play, and the penalty kill they didn't execute. We're Islander fans. We've seen shit. We know when we're being pandered to. When somebody's something. What did you say? There's something rotten.
Yeah.
Right. We know we could smell that shit out. Right. Look us in the eye, and just be like, we're gonna fucking do something about it. Like I can't. It's impossible to watch because, as we keep saying, even the stuff you're supposed to get excited for as a hockey fan, when a referee's arm goes up with 3 minutes left in a tie game and you're the team about to go on the power play, can you imagine if you were a Colorado Avalanche fan and that just happened? You're like, oh, fuck, this is a huge game. We're going to send the power play out. Like, we have a great chance here and I swear to God, and I know I'm not the only one who thought it, once I saw that arm go up, I was like, God, if they just need to kill this penalty off. They just need to kill it off. And that's their power play. And they couldn't even do it. Like it's so bad.
Right.
It's not fun. It's not fun to think that way. I want to be happy. When the Islanders went 2-for-2 against Ottawa, I think I mentioned this on the power play a couple games ago. My first thought was after they scored that second goal, which is a huge goal, game-winning goal, wasn't, oh, that's great. It was, well, they went 2-for-2 tonight, so that means a huge slump's coming because there's no way that for them, they don't build on momentum. They do something like that. They're like, oh, that's good enough for us. Like, we killed off that penalty. You expect us to kill off the next one? That's crazy. What are your standards? And I was right. I think they're now 0-for-14 since the 2-for-2. So or whatever
Brendan
it
said
is.
something
So
like that.
that's not how you're supposed to think as a fan, but they've warped our brains in such a way that I do. Like we said, they've robbed us of the joy. It's all suspended animation now until the horn sounds to end a game for a win. I'm like, there's nothing fun about it. I think anybody in some sort of like mental health profession would listen to this and be like, dude, there's a way out here, man. Just stop watching. Like, it's clear. It's clear as day. You're saying it out loud, and I'm just not brave enough to do it, unfortunately.
Like, what? Like, if they were given a power play in a tied game with 3 minutes to go, what do you think the Golden Knights would do in that situation? Or the Florida Panthers? Or the Tampa Bay Lightning?
The five guys that were like gonna go out there and score a goal would be over the boards, and there'd be in their head there'd be like Raiders of the Lost Ark music playing or whatever it is. What's that song? The Star Wars score.
Yeah, the Imperial March, the Darth Vader song. Yeah.
Yes, that song would be playing in their head, and it would be playing in our head too, as the team that's about to try to kill this penalty off. We're like, oh shit, there's no chance in hell we're gonna kill this off, and we would all be right. But when it's the Islanders, it's like the Banana Split song, like tra la 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 la. It's that song when they come over. And that's exactly what happens. They slip all over the ice, they crash their cars into one another, and then the other team's left celebrating, and they're all like, "Oh shucks, we foiled again."
Came up one puck short. But yeah, those guys would be salivating. They'd be foaming at the mouth to be
fighting each other over who's going to go out there.
Let's get this goal and get this game over with.
John Cooper would just walk off the bench. He'd be like, "Oh, this game's over." Like, why would I even stay? I'm gonna go have a nice cold beer in the locker room. Cooch will come in here and tell me who scored the game winner, and we got the empty netter, and we'll be on, and we're fly to Carolina tomorrow. Like, that's it. There are 20 especially because it was against the Blackhawks.
The Blackhawks. There are 20 other teams in this league. The Blackhawks are not one of them, by the way, and neither are the Islanders, where this situation plays out like this. You're given a power play with 3 minutes left. You got five guys chomping at the bit, foaming at the mouth like crazed rabid dogs to get out there. They score a goal. They manufacture a goal however they can. Then, the other team has 2 minutes left. They will pull their goalie. The team that just scored will send out a couple of depth lines they're foaming at the mouth to finish this thing off, get an empty net goal, go to the locker room, grab a slice of pizza, and fly to the next city. Exactly. That's the way it works for 20
Ryan
other
Lomberg
teams
and Nick Cousins. They're out there they're like, oh, I'm going to put that guy through the glass and steal the puck from him. And it's
like it's and the Islanders don't do that. That's not how the Islanders operate. They will not do that. They will not score on the power play. They will then ice the puck. They will then lose the face-off, and they will give up the game-winning goal with 45 seconds left to go, which gives them no time to do anything because they don't do anything fast. They just don't. And so this all breaks down pretty much like we've seen before. Again, we literally saw this exact same ending not long ago, and I remember it to this day. The Ryan Strome face icing, and then they end up losing the game in Detroit, right? So then I also ate dinner. I watched some TV. I waited for the videos to come up. I go watch Patrick Waugh's video. And what is Patrick Waugh saying after the game? Oh, we did some good thing. We outshot them. What was it? 30-20. We got we were played really well defensively in the second and third. We didn't play well defensively in the first, but then as the game go on, we play better defensively. But, these things happen or something like that. I'm like, this is where I was starting to get mad. And I'll get to the next video in a second, but I was starting to get mad because they keep talking about the chances, the shots on goal, the doing this and all these underlying numbers and how they're in their favor. And all I'm thinking is, if you don't win the game, all those stats don't mean fuck all. They don't mean anything. There's nothing there. Like, if you've lost the game, this is a results business. If you don't get the results, what you're doing underneath those results doesn't mean anything. If you're cooking a recipe, you're baking a cake, and you burn that cake and you incinerate it because you left it in the oven too long or the temperature was too high, you can't be like, well, I mixed all the ingredients exactly the way they told me to. I just, it just didn't happen for me. You blew it. You blew the result. The result is cake. You didn't make cake. You made this charred hunk of nothing. Who cares how you mix the eggs or sifted the flour in there? It doesn't matter. So what are we talking about here? You didn't win the game. So who cares if you outshot them? Who cares if you gave them less chances? If they were doing that stuff, and then winning. And then every once in a while there was a bummer like this where you didn't score. If their power play was 10th in the league, and then this one time they didn't score and
they're just in a slump. They're in a slump. It's a slump. It happens.
It happens.
We got the yips. We got the yips.
But to do this repeatedly, to outshoot and outchance and play well against other teams, and then ultimately come away with 0 or 1 points because you lost, doesn't mean anything. It doesn't. You're not helping anybody. Like nobody cares, and this is what we're talking about. I don't like using this term because people use it incorrectly, but it does almost feel like we're being gaslit into thinking that this team is better than it is. And it's like, I could look at the standings and tell you they're not good.
Exactly. So, this is what I mean about these drones, right? Like,
right.
You could say that we're playing well. I'm going to read something from the Hockey News from Stefan Rosner, and I don't mean this to come off as anything towards Stefan because he works hard and whatever, but he's basically just relaying what the Islanders were saying, right?
Yeah.
Here's the second paragraph after the lead. The Islanders played well enough to win with Matthew Barzal and Adam Pelech back in the lineup. However, the power play went 0 for 4, and it's hard to win in this league regardless of the opponent when that happens. Oh, the Islanders also allowed the first goal for the 7th straight game.
Right.
Despite a pretty rough showing in the opening 20, the Islanders got the game tied. Going on, but just 7 seconds later, the Islanders broke down defensively. All of this meeting, that doesn't mean you're playing well. Like you could say that the term "trust the process" is up there with sports as a business, which is the things that have ruined those cliches that are ruining sports, right? For everybody, the whole experience. Right. Honestly, the process might be fine. It might be the way the Islanders play at 5-on-5, and the numbers are fine, whatever. That doesn't mean you're playing well because you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
Right.
You're not winning hockey games, and you're actively losing hockey games when you're ahead. Like you just said it. Like they when we recap this game, what about that makes you think you're playing well?
Yeah. Your power play is 32nd in the league. Your penalty kill is 32nd in the league. That's not playing well.
Your goalies are sub 900 on the season in save percentage. You've the worst third period team outside of the Blackhawks. Right. That might have changed after tonight in the race to the bottom.
You're 13 games under in goal differential. 13 goals under, I should say.
Yeah. So it's not going well.
Right.
Which you could say things aren't going well. I mean, I hate to bring up the Rangers already. I mean, it's 40 minutes in and we haven't really talked about them, but fuck the Rangers. I'm so happy to see, like, the best part of the season so far has been what's going on with them over there in the past few weeks, and the way that they've, as Justin Bourne said, that he called it an unprompted meltdown, which we got to teach Justin the meaning of the word unprompted, because I would say that this was perhaps one of the most prompted things I've ever seen in my life, which makes it all the more sweeter that this was basically an unforced error from the GM starting in the summer. But at least the Rangers, and whether their intentions are nefarious or real or whatever, there's clearly an onus and an intention to get out of this through hell or high water. And whether it works or not, whatever. Hell, by the time you're listening to this, Peter Laviolette, who led them to the President's Trophy last year, might not be the head coach of the New York Rangers anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I love Patrick Waugh. I want Patrick Waugh on Long Island forever. I want him, whether he's the goalie for the Shadow team until he's done, like whatever. I want him here. I love Patrick Waugh. I think it's so funny that he's here. So I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is it took the Islanders to game 31 in the season. So this was after 12, because they didn't play the Blackhawks yet. So after 12 hurtful losses, 7 normal losses, 4 feel bad wins, and only 8 good wins, to make any sort of like a little bit of a change, in which they waived Oliver Wahlstrom, and Pierre Engvall again, even though Engvall they know is going to stick around, and that's like the move that's going to happen, and that's even like the biggest threat, because there's not even murmurs that the team is considering anything like that, and I know stuff doesn't get out. And there's something to be said about trying to keep everybody on the same page and not let the panic seep into the room. But at this point, fucking let the panic seep into the room. Let Ryan Pulock or whoever on this team, whether it's him, whether it's Casey Cizikas, whether it's it's friggin' Matt Barzell, or let them all be like, damn, I might be traded tomorrow because we're not playing up to standard.
Right.
Like there's no, we're 32nd in the NHL in the penalty kill again. For the second straight year. We set the record for the worst penalty kill in the salary cap era last year, and we're going to beat it by miles this year. They are just barely over 50% killing penalties at home. It's okay if something changes, because this isn't working. It's not fun for any. I don't know how anybody's having fun.
Right. Well, so the next video, but that's a perfect point, because a lot of this is on the players. And the next video I watched after the Patrick Waugh one was Anders Lee, whose his whole contention was they just came up a puck short. They played really good, but they just came up one puck short. Okay, well, why did you come up one puck short? Was it possibly because you have the 32nd best penalty kill power play in the entire league, and you were given a gift power play with 3 minutes to go? And had you scored a goal and gotten that quote unquote puck in the net at that point, maybe you wouldn't have come up a puck short and you would have come up a puck ahead. Like it's doing this thing and then being like, we're just trying to find the guy who did this. Like, we know who did this. You guys did this. You did this. And this is where I got to the point that I made at the beginning, which is like, I don't know if these guys are trying to win, because none of them give off the idea that they are mad at all about this.
No, it sounds crazy, and it's the type of thing we would make fun of if we heard like there's some crazy shit from Ranger fans.
Yeah,
I saw some like Ranger account tweeting that this is like one of the darkest ages. He's considering this era a dark era in the team's history, which is insane because they won the President's Trophy last year, and the season's only 30 games old, so there's time to.
And we're in 2 of the last 3 Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's oh man. Sorry, yeah, it's because you guys used to win all those cups all the time, so it must be a dark era when you come up short. Yeah, I don't. It's oh my god! You could classify it as Islanders, at least you can classify it. I've lost my train of thought, but you could at least come out and say we're not coming up a puck short. You could classify it as, we gotta figure the shit out quickly because you know exactly what they're gonna say. 8 weeks from now, 12 weeks from now, whenever March comes around. Yeah, we know where we are in the standings, and we know we're running out of time. Yeah, dude, you were running out of time when you were playing the Blackhawks, and there was seconds ticking off the clock on your power play, and you needed a goal. Like this, we all see it. Once again, this is the same thing as we were talked about all last year. If we can see it as fans, you should be able to see it as teams. Oh man, we better get these freaking 2 points against the Blackhawks, who were in New Jersey last night, because hell, you know who we play on Tuesday night? The freaking Hurricanes, and then we play the Maple Leafs, and then we play the Maple Leafs again 2 more times before the end of the month. We play the Penguins a bunch of times. Like this is a pretty big stretch. We might want to bank these points.
No,
but we went 2 for 2 on the power play a couple weeks ago, and dude, that doesn't really matter.
Right.
Like we're the Islanders. We'll hang around.
It feels like they already won their one game this week, so they're good. Like they got their one win. They seem to be trying to make the playoffs by winning one game a week, every week during the course of the season.
Yeah,
because that's
and
what
that goes
do.
down. That's the macro, right? The micro is we killed our one penalty tonight.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But like I keep, we always hear stories about how professional athletes are like the most competitive people you'll ever meet. These guys, they never do anything without competing against. Whether it's cards or hockey or that the soccer game that hurt Adam Pelech a couple of years ago. Like these guys are never not competing. They're always competitive. They're always doing stuff. That is completely absent on this team. There is none of that. If these guys are like that, then we are completely in the dark, because they seem like they just don't particularly care at all.
Yeah.
When I got Anders Lee telling me they just came up a little bit short, and in losing in regulation by 2 goals to the worst team in the NHL, playing on a back-to-back, that tells me these guys don't give a shit. They don't, and I don't care how hard they're working out there. I don't care how much they love each other and how close they are and how many shots they had or how few chances they gave up or how this or how that. This is a results business. Your results suck. Right now, you are 12, 13, and 7. And I know the head coach would look at this and be like, wow, we are only 1 game under 500. Patrick, the 7 is overtime losses. you are not 1 game under 500. You are 8 games under 500 because you lost those games.
And
you are 12 and 20.
And 4 of those games fell into the category of hurtful losses. So you can't even you could say, well, we're 1 game under NHL 500, whatever. Yeah, but you should be 5 games over NHL 500 if you were a competent team. If you were a team that did care about results and winning, and it, like you put it very kind of correctly, and it sounds simple and watered down, but it does look like these guys just treat this as if, oh, my job is to show up, play a hockey game, and almost like an employee at a job he or she doesn't like. Like I show up, I open up my laptop, maybe I'll go to happy hour with a couple of the
I did
my
thing.
Yeah,
I answered all my emails today. Yep, I'm good. I'm going home. I'll see you later.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not how it's supposed to work. And what's a shame is I had to start during the game. So if we did want to focus on a couple positives from this Blackhawks game, Noah Dobson was good again. Happy to see. After I should also caveat that with he fell asleep on the first goal, but he does seem to be trending in the right direction. I thought Pierre Engvall's line with Holmstrom and McLean were really good, and that's the point I want to bring up is those 3 guys were they were going, they were skating, flying all over the ice, forechecking, creating second and third opportunities. Because they would hem the Blackhawks in deep. And I was like, wow, that's great. Look at these guys go. That should be the norm. I was surprised by it. I was like, this is so nice, man. Imagine they could do this more. I shouldn't be thinking that. I should be expecting that out of these guys. I should be expecting them to go hunt in the corner for pucks, because that's all we've been told is, oh, we want to play a fast, aggressive style where if we lose the puck, we're going to go fight like crazy to go win it back. And there was one line that did that tonight, and it feels like there's been one line a night. It's usually been a different line every game that's been doing it. Like it's not. It doesn't look like the team is trying that hard, and I hate saying it that way because I know we know that they are. I mean, we're watching Kyle Palmieri take pucks to the face. He got belted again today. He's in front of the net, and they all are. Like Brian Pollock was getting cross-checked a bunch of times. Scott Mayfield, we're not idiots. We know that they're trying hard, but it doesn't. If it looks like this, there's something amiss, right? There's something really strange going on, and it's been going on, and it doesn't feel like there's any sense of urgency to get it fixed at all.
No, not at all.
And if you've been watching the Rangers downfall like I have, and I mean, I might write a book on these last few weeks. Maybe I'll do an ESPN documentary on it. Maybe I'll call it "Quit in New York," right? That, but if you watch those games when the Kings ran up the score on them the other night, when the Kings went ahead 2-0, they panned to the bench and there's just this 1,000-yard stare from every player they showed, and they looked like they wanted to be anywhere else, anywhere else on earth. And here's the sad thing: I would take that. I would take that from the Islanders, because when they show them after the Blackhawks score a back-breaking goal with a minute left after you just had a power play, and Dennis Cholowski, who we're just glossing over the fact here that yes, Dennis Cholowski is playing a huge role in this season.
Yes, I was going to say
there's something going on that needs to be addressed. He's been playing fine. I think him and Hutton and George have filled in admirably for as long as they have. But Dennis Cholowski's out there and ices the puck, and it's one unforced error after another after another. It's in the back of the net. The worst team in the league is now celebrating because they just scored a goal with a minute left after you had a power play that you blew. And then you look at the Islanders, and it's like they look like we probably do, which is just yeah, that's just what we do. That's just who we are. We're the Islanders, baby. Whose kids' christening are we going to tomorrow? What time do we need to carpool? Whatever. No, I would take the 1,000-yard, get me the hell out of here look from somebody over whatever we're getting served right now.
It's just that and again, like you said, I mean, you said it right. I should have said this before. We know that these guys are working hard, and I really don't think that they're not trying to win. But I'm telling you that the impression that we get from them is that they're not. They're not relaying to us any sort of urgency or dedication to fixing any of this. Again, the power play has not changed one iota this entire time. and it is the worst in the league. The same with the penalty kill. Yes. What is being changed? Nothing's being changed, and we'll get to the Wahlstrom thing in a little bit, and the roster decisions and stuff. But and the other thing I was thinking of too. Well, two things before we start to wrap up this half. But number one, the back-to-back thing really is galling because the game opens with Butch Goring saying this team is not very good. They're on a back-to-back. If the Islanders come out with some urgency, they can make this a pretty, not an easy night, but a very convincing win. And they didn't do anything. So I have a feeling that a lot of what we're saying right now probably would get Butch nodding his head as well if he ever listened to this episode, which I'm sure he's not. That's number one. Number two is that, a lot of times teams in the sort of building stages, they learn to win in the regular season, and then they repeatedly fail in the playoffs. I mean, the Islanders did this in the 70s. They were labeled as choke artists. Obviously, the Capitals went through this for a long time. The Lightning went through this for a long time before, 2019 or whatever it was, or 2020. The Lightning were great in the regular season and then would just fall apart in the playoffs. I mean, the Leafs are living that right now, obviously. The Islanders are the opposite for some reason. They have not yet to put together, all right, the 2018-19 was a fantastic regular season, but that was the only one that they've had in a long time that was like, that's a really great regular, I guess 2014-15 was a really good one too. But those are like the only two really good regular seasons they've had in a long time. But then they go to the playoffs and somehow they coalesced and they came together for long enough to have two runs to the semifinals. That's really odd. This team has yet to learn how to win in the regular season. And it just seems like they just don't care. And they just know they're going to be around. And what you said about the way they're going to be talking in March is spot on. They're going to probably be within 3 or 4 points of a playoff spot around the trade deadline. They're not making any trades. They're not going to trade Brock Nelson or Palmieri or any of the other guys if they're that close. And then they're just going to try and ride it out. And for all we know, they might actually end up in the playoffs. That's the most galling thing. These guys aren't going to learn a damn thing. If they're hanging around that long, all of a sudden they get hot and they win 4 games at the end of the year, they're going to make the playoffs. And then what do you think is going to happen? They're going to get their ass handed to them by Carolina again, right? I don't want that. You don't want that. None of us want that. So what is going to change? Nothing. It's just they're just going to keep doing what they do and telling themselves, we played good. We just didn't get the bounce, or we didn't get the puck that we needed. Okay, but we're sitting here. Nobody's having any fun. It's just like, what do you want us to do? We're just supposed to believe you and go along with the ride and get nothing out of it? Like, I don't know, man. This is a messed up relationship.
Yes,
and I don't like
it. and it's different. It's very different from the other times you have a messed up relationship with a sports team. If you have Sirius XM NHL radio, Boomer Gordon did this great opening monologue to his show, which is called The Point. I believe he did it on Thursday morning, because it was the morning after the Sabres lost to the Rangers, and he just talked about like the toxicity of a relationship between fans, of long-suffering fans, and the team, and how crazy it sounds when you put it in context of other things in life, like the jilted or toxic relationship with like a boyfriend or girlfriend, and or like he put one that I thought was spot on, which is, let's say you go to a restaurant and it's like your neighborhood restaurant, and you go there and you like it, so you go back, and then over the years it just gets worse and worse, and like maybe the owners change or they start treating you worse. Maybe they screw with your food, your orders, like you keep going back and expecting it to change. That's on you at some point,
right?
Like, and he posed a question which was so funny because I've never heard it put this way, which was, if you and me were out, maybe like we had another live show or something, and a longtime listener came up to us, someone we know, maybe our friend Ole Kavasha, let's say. He comes into the bar and he's wearing an Anaheim Ducks jersey. Right. And he's like, yep, I'm done. Just done with the Islanders. It's been too much. I'm rooting for the Ducks. It's going to be great. We'd be like, no, man, that's stupid. Like, that's not how it works. You're supposed to stick. And in reality, we should be like, damn, you're a genius. That was such a good move. Like, get the hell out and do that. Like, that. Who cares if it's not the right way to like be a sports fan or whatever? And yeah, that's what it feels right now. Like, after 13 of the first 32 games, I'm asking myself why I do this.
Like, yeah.
that's not right. Like, it's not, we're not the San Jose Sharks right now, like building towards something, or the Blackhawks and being like, man, I hope it's another step forward this year. And this is a bad team doing bad team things. No, this is supposed to be a competent team that's DNA is supposed to be not making unforced errors and snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. This is a team that, you give the Islanders an inch, they're going to take a mile. They're going to suffocate you. They're the anaconda that just, they're up 2-1 going into the second. You might as well just pack your bags and fly back to Minnesota because the game's over.
This was a team that didn't want to fight for playoff spots. They wanted to be in a playoff spot throughout their season.
Yeah, accomplishing that goal.
Right. Good luck. I'm with you. It is like a restaurant or anything else. Like, again, we've talked about TV shows. Like, if this was another TV show and it became so disappointing that it just made you mad, you'd stop watching it.
Yeah.
You know?
I
right.
And that's not how you're supposed to feel after games. Like, you're
right.
A loss is supposed to just be a loss. But for this team, they drag you through a freaking hall of mirrors every time they go out there to lose a hockey game.
Yeah.
If they could just lose more in a more normal way and then back that up with some normal wins, it would be a lot simpler to be doing this. But it's not. They are a nightmare right now. Yeah. This is just a nightmare. And as you pointed it out before, the sad thing is, you're right about the Sabres and there are other teams that would trade spots with the Islanders right now.
Right.
Because they're in an even more hopeless situation than we are. And all I could think of is, like, the Sabres do some fucked up shit, but like, I do think the way the Islanders are going about their business is just as jarring, because they are looking us in the eye and being like, one puck short.
Yeah.
You're the 32nd best penalty kill team in the league. You're the 32nd best power play team in the league. You're the 31st best third period team in the league. You're not coming up one puck short. You just be honest with us and with yourselves. And maybe that's the first step towards putting this thing back on the tracks. Because, boy, it's whatever ride this is right now, it sucks. And like, if the Islanders beat the Hurricanes on Tuesday night, we're at the point where I'm like, oh, great. Like, good win. Don't care. You got to do it. Like, you got to do it 3 or 4 more times. And we were getting close to doing that, but you had to go ahead and lose to the Blackhawks. Like, they were like flirting with a run, and they're like, not yet. We'll save that one for March.
They had won 2 in a row by beating the Hurricanes just a couple of weeks ago or last week, and they threw it away. All right, before we start going too far down this road, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit about that upcoming Hurricanes game and very little bit about the upcoming Leafs game. And then we'll get into the waiving of Wally One Shift and the end of an era that I don't know if any of us saw coming quite this way. So meet us on the other side. Thanks. And now a word from our sponsors. First is always VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, and more featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey now carries a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch featuring our blue and orange brain logo, as well as our Al Arbor and the Island shirts. And as always, our portion of the sales go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a top 100 best buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly.
So, you want to be a marketer. It's easy. You just have to score a ton of leads and figure out a way to turn them all into customers. Plus, manage a dozen channels, write a million blogs, and launch 100 campaigns all at once. When that's done, simply make your socials go viral and bring in record profits. No sweat. Okay, fine. It's a lot of sweat. But with HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools, launching benchmark-breaking campaigns is easier than ever. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the new generative AI assistant from AWS. Many tasks can make business slow, like wading through mud.
Help!
Luckily, there's a faster, easier, less messy choice. Amazon Q can securely understand your business data to help you streamline tasks, like summarizing quarterly results or doing complex analyses in no time. Q got this. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
So, as we've been mentioning, the Islanders have a game against the Carolina Hurricanes coming up on Tuesday. That's an ESPN Plus/Hulu game, so don't look for it on MSG. Sorry, it's a 7:30 start, though. And then their only other game this week is on Saturday. Hockey Night in Canada game against the Leafs in Toronto. 7 o'clock start. That is on MSG, Sportsnet 2. And then they have a couple of games next week. So they do have a lot of time off coming up, which is good. Bad news is that, again, this team doesn't do things the normal way. And so a loss here means sitting and stewing about it for 3 days. Or a win means watching every other team gain points while you sit at home doing nothing. So again, nothing is fun. I don't want to talk too much about the Leafs game in particular, because I think we're going to have a lot more to talk about on the other side of that game. Surely somebody's going to say something very stupid, and we can get into that then. And the Hurricanes, again, the Islanders beat this team already. They showed just a couple weeks ago that they can play with this team. Maybe that was an off night for them, and maybe Peter Kochenkov was having a bad game. But in any event, they do have a little bit of confidence going into this game that they can beat their playoff nemesis. Does that mean a hill of beans going into this game? Absolutely not. And so anything can happen. If they got shut out, I wouldn't be surprised. If they got blown out, I wouldn't be surprised. If they won in overtime, I wouldn't be surprised. If they lost in overtime, I wouldn't be surprised. And if they just walked out with another 4-3 win, like they had at UBS Arena a couple weeks ago, I also wouldn't be surprised. So who knows? The Hurricanes certainly certainly aren't going to have forgotten that previous game, and what the Islanders make out of it. I don't know. What is your feeling going into this? Again, you were 100% right. Like, momentum means nothing to these guys. So, in a way, which in a way is good. Like, they're not going to, we know they're not going to stew about losing the game against the Blackhawks because they don't seem, if they don't seem to care, well, then
they've got christenings and stuff to get to before that. So they got
fun sweaters to buy for whoever,
somebody's
definitely throwing a holiday party in those 4 days off.
Right.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, what's your feeling going into this game? Like, is it?
No, I think they're gonna get blown out. I think this is like a classic show up, get the doors blown off of you, and then they'll be like, something's got to change, and we can say, and maybe that's giving them too much credit, because from what they're showing us so far, they won't say that. Right. We made fun of the Rangers for calling it a crisis after a 2-game losing streak. I guess they were right, and we were wrong, but I don't know what it would take for this team to dub themselves in a crisis, right? Right. But I do feel like this is a hopeless endeavor on Tuesday. I hope to be proven wrong, and I hope the Islanders, as always, when they beat Carolina, then they beat the Leafs and the Sabres. They go into Christmas riding that elusive 3-game winning streak that they've been searching for this entire season. But I'm not going to hold my breath there. Yeah. And I just don't see how this team goes into Carolina and has a good performance at all. And you going back to how super specific and weird the similarities are between this year and last year. Right before the Christmas break last year, the Islanders played an ESPN game against the Hurricanes in Raleigh, and they blew a third period lead. And they won it in overtime.
That's the Barzell one, right?
And that's when Matt Barzell had the interview after the game. He's like, we got to stop doing this shit.
Yeah.
And then they didn't, obviously, because the coach was fired about a month later. But so almost a year later, the Islanders are still doing this shit, Matt. And we would like it to stop. But I don't believe it will at all. Right. So,
although... looking at the schedule, and you mentioned the elusive 3-game winning streak, it also would be very Islanders for them to win these 3 games, have 4 days off over Christmas, then lose both games to the Penguins coming out of the break and then lose again to the Leafs on New Year's Eve. Like, and then thereby erasing, whatever gains they made during that 3 games. Like, oh yeah, heck yeah, we won 3 in a row. Congratulations. Everybody's going to go off for Christmas now. Have a good time. Come back and then completely sleepwalk through the next 3 games. Like, that would totally be them too. So, yeah, I'm with you. I feel like a blowout's coming. Maybe not like a classic blowout. Like, it might be, tied at 2 or something going into the third, and then they lose 5-2, or 6-2, something like that. Where it kind of sneaks up on you a little bit, and all of a sudden, like, you're getting blown out. The Hockey Night in Canada game, terrifying for a number of reasons, and not even the score. I could care less. I'm assuming, again, they're going to lose that game, but I can just imagine people tuning in across Canada and being like, this is how these guys play? Like, what is going on? Right? They have the 32nd ranked power. They have the dead last power play and penalty kill in the league. What the hell is going on out there? And I hope, and this is going to transition us to a discussion about media, which we want to get into. Trust me, and we'll get into Wahlstrom in a minute. But I really hope that the knowledge that this team's special teams are terrible on both ends, that they cannot win more than 2 games in a row, that they completely, just blow third period leads like it's, going out of style, finally puts to rest the notion that the insiders, all of whom are based in Canada for the most part, try to put across that, well, Lou Lamoriello is not going to stand for this. Lou, he's not going to sit around and let this happen. Lou is letting this happen. Lou is the guy in charge. Lou is the guy who is presiding over the team that has the 32nd ranked power play and penalty kill in the league and blows third period leads and does all the things that we've been talking about. So I hope when somebody's like, man, these guys aren't that good, somebody's like, yeah, but I thought Lou, was looking to make changes because Elliot Friedman told me he was going to. Well, guess what? The changes haven't been happening, although one did, I guess. And so I guess, which way do we want to go now? You wanted to mention some stuff, kind of how the Islanders are covered and how the Rangers are covered and that sort of stuff. Or do we want to talk about Wahlstrom first, which was a change that was made that was significant?
Right. No, I think they're related.
Okay.
Actually, because about 5 days ago, there were a number of articles written about how Oliver Wahlstrom was turning a corner.
Turning the corner. That's right. He's looking for his chance.
I know he had scored a pretty big goal, a good goal. Was that against the Hurricanes or the Senators, whoever it was against, in a winning effort. And I was happy for him and all that. But that was his 2nd goal on the season.
Right.
If 2 goals and 2 assists in however many games he ended up playing, I think he was clipping of the past 2 seasons at a 14-point pace. So essentially the same as, I would guess, Matt Martin, his career season average is probably right around there. So he was, he was putting up Matt Martin numbers, and that was enough for him to get he's coming into his own, finally gaining confidence, pieces written about him, which I was like, what am I missing here that people were writing this instead of like, yeah, he's got to be better. Otherwise he's going to find himself where he found himself, which is on waivers. Like I don't understand the hockey media landscape at all anymore. I don't like it basically you're either an insider lying about trade rumors or something. Like I maybe it's just not for me. Like it's just not geared towards me anymore. So that's why, but it's either that insider kind of gossip mongering. Our friend Matt Strauss called an insider a professional liar, which I thought was a really good way to put it. Or it's like these weird athletic-y type pieces where nobody's really going for there's no oomph to the stories. It's, oh, Oliver Wahlstrom scored the other night. Let's say he's found it. He's found his footing with the Islanders. He's in the lineup because Matt Barzal is hurt and Anthony Duclair is hurt, and their other options are Hudson Fasching, Liam Foudy, or Chris Terry or whoever, right? Like Julien Gauthier, and he's hurt. Like, who knows if Julien Gauthier isn't hurt in Bridgeport, maybe he's not even in the lineup. That doesn't mean he's finding his footing, and it just breeds it like seeps into like the fan psyche of how we all think. Because once again, if you're covering the team, people will take you at your word because that's your job, is to represent, like to be the GOAT conduit between fan and team. And there wasn't one person who like through their, actually it's not true, Stefan Rosler did do it, but when Wahlstrom played against the Kings scored what ended up being a game-winning goal on an extended shift. The Kings actually with a team like put the clip out because it was their goal, and if you watch it, you see Oliver Wahlstrom basically doing the exact cliche of what you think of when you think of like a hockey player who's in and out of the doghouse of his coach. He's like reaching in, he's exhausted, he's terrible defense, his man ends up scoring a goal, and he just doesn't, there's like no emotion from him at all. He's like hand on the hips, whatever. And there wasn't someone who was like, wow, it looked like he was coming around. Now what are you gonna do? And I didn't even hear a mention of it in the post game. And I think that kind of just goes to the whole point of what we're talking about with the team, which is that there's this weird malaise and acceptance that, oh, this is just who they are. Instead of asking about why the penalty kill, what have you changed on the penalty kill, or anything like, or addressing this issue or that issue, like, can you get into the X's and O's or whatever? It's, hey, what do you need to see out of Pierre Engvall tonight for the 32nd time? Like, or Oliver Wahlstrom played a season high last night. What are you seeing out of him? There's no, those aren't the issues here. The issues here are very plain to see. And we feel, as you said, gaslit, that nobody is stepping up and being like, hey, instead of talking about Marcus Hogberg being up because Semyon Varlamov is hurt. Let's talk about the penalty kill, because this is a disaster. And it's adding to the not fun of the entire experience that the team seems to be, everybody seems to be circling the wagons when that's not what should be happening right now.
My last thing, so in case you're just joining us, Oliver Wahlstrom was placed on waivers on Friday. He was picked up by the Boston Bruins on Saturday. He's obviously from Maine. He grew up, I guess, rooting for the Bruins. And all I could think about when I found that out was, and you mentioned this a second ago, my lasting image now of Oliver Wahlstrom was going to be one of his final plays as an Islander, which is Kevin Fiala of the LA Kings basically doing like a shake and bake move, and Wahlstrom, who was the guy covering him, turning towards the boards away from Fiala, while Fiala just zoomed in, scored a goal, made the game 2-0, scored 2-0 Kings in a game that they would never trail. And I was like, and somebody highlighted it and was just like, why are you doing this? This is exactly what you're not supposed to be doing. So why are you turning away from the guy with the puck and just letting him, oh, by the way, this guy's Kevin Fiala. He's got 30 goal seasons or whatever. Wahlstrom is a guy who came in with a high pedigree. He was drafted, what was it here? 11th overall, right ahead or right before Noah Dobson. I think it was right after Dobson, actually. And basically played on every line with every center the Islanders had. I don't know how much time he had with Nelson, but I'm sure it was some. Played with Barzal for a while, had a 12-goal, season at 20, had a 13-goal season at 21, played under Barry Trotz, played under Lane Lambert, played under Patrick Waugh. He had 2 goals this season. He had 2 goals in 32 games all of last season. He had 7 goals in 35 games the season before, although he got hurt. He had the ACL injury that year. He just couldn't find a spot. And even Patrick Waugh was like, people keep telling me this shot, he's got this big shot. I need to see it. This dude was on the second power play unit. I don't even know how many shots he had. I don't remember any. Like, he's on the power play and he's not getting shots. Again, he was on the first line with Barzal under Trotz. Wasn't really doing much. And so it was a very frustrating experience, I'm sure, for him and for us as well. And now what's even more frustrating is now we got to hear, Lou lost this guy for nothing. How could you not get anything for this guy? The Islanders, the Rangers traded the husk of Jacob Trouba and got stuff back for him. I know people hate Lou. I know hating Lou is a fun thing and an easy thing for people to do. If you don't think that Lou was trying to trade this guy for 2 fucking seasons, you are a moron. He tried to trade this guy for 2 years easily, and nobody wanted to give him a dime for this guy, because that's not how it works. When you could pick up somebody for free, it's a different story. And so the Bruins, who are having struggles of their own, went to pick him up for nothing. Like, why would they give up a 7th round pick for this guy when they can get him for nothing because he's going to end up on waivers, which is exactly what happened. Lou tried to trade this guy. Nobody wanted him. Why? Because he stinks. And if he goes to the Bruins and he becomes a superstar, well, hey, what are you going to do? Like, that's just how it works. But the biggest argument against this is why put Wahlstrom, and Engvall, by the way, was also put on waivers, but of course, because Bo Horvat was hurt, it didn't mean anything because he was in the lineup today.
Played well.
Well, what? Sorry?
He played well.
Yeah, he played well. He set up a Holmstrom for that goal too. Yeah. The other argument against the Wahlstrom thing is that, like, well, why put him on waivers? Why not McLean? Why not Martin? Why not Fashing? Why not, frankly, Casey Cizikas, who hasn't played all that well this year? And you know what? That's a good question. That's a damn good question. Why not put McLean on waivers? Is somebody going to pick him up? No, like, I don't think so. What, are you going to hurt his feelings? You're going to hurt his dad's feelings? Well, too bad. Like, maybe that's the case, but they weren't put on waivers, unfortunately. And, Wahlstrom is gone now. But frankly, had Wahlstrom stayed, I don't know what there was to get out of him. Because, again, this is a guy who just, in 6 years with the Islanders, just didn't really seem to get it. Maybe he gets it with the Bruins. I don't know. But, I get it. People are mad. But we went through this with Josh Ho-Sang, who wasn't re-signed. We went through this with Kiefer Bellows,
right,
who bounced around for a while. Nothing really happened. So I get, people are like, the people that are mad that Lou didn't get anything for Wahlstrom are just being willfully obtuse. He's been trying to trade this guy for at least 2 seasons, and nobody wanted to give him anything for him. I don't know what you expect. That guy who you drafted really high and doesn't seem to know what he's doing defensively, offensively, and has played with everybody on your team and really hasn't clicked at all. And by the way, also had ACL surgery 2 years ago. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to give you a 2nd round pick for that guy. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
I don't know. So what are you talking about? Jacob Trouba. Say what you want about Jacob Trouba. At least he's like playing, right? Like, I don't understand. Like, he's still doing Jacob Trouba things. So I don't know. That part's very frustrating. But hey, you know what, Wally? Maybe you get a fresh start and see what happens. But what are you going to do? It's a shame. It's a shame. The guy was an 11th overall pick, and it sucks. You can't do this. You can't, blow 11th overall picks like that. But they've done it now multiple times. Bellows was a 15th overall pick. Ho-Sang was a 28th overall pick. These guys are all 1st round picks, and none of them really did all that much for the Islanders. It's an unfortunate situation. But what are you going to do? We'll see what happens. But it'd be nice if there was a player to take Wally's spot now,
right,
that would produce, but again, doesn't seem like that's happening because Bridgeport stinks even more than the Islanders do. What were your thoughts on the Walls? I gotta be honest, I was out seeing my family on Saturday, so I didn't really have a lot of time to process the Wahlstrom thing. I didn't really know he got picked up by the Bruins until you texted me like, good luck to the Bruins. I was like, wait, oh really? Is that what happened? So what were your thoughts when Wahlstrom got picked up? I mean, your wife is a Bruins fan. Is she excited for the Wahlstrom era?
I was trying to explain as best I can of like the Wahlstrom experience. But I mean, that's the frustrating part isn't that he's on waivers, the Islanders lost him. It's the way that there's like certain corner of the fan base and not just the hockey Islander fan base, but like just generally view this as a Lou giving up on a kid. Like, he's not even going to give him a chance. This guy's played 220 games for the Islanders. I was trying to think. I was like, I wonder what his stat line was when the Bruins claimed him. I guessed it in my own head. I was like, I'm guessing 125 games played, maybe like around 50 points. 220 games for Oliver Wahlstrom, 36 goals, 35 assists, and 71 points, all of which were a little higher than I thought. 148 penalty minutes too. I don't remember this at all, but during the cursed Murphy's Law season, he played 73 games and had 74 penalty minutes and 24 points.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And that was his season. His career high was 24 points, 13 goals. And that was 4 years ago. So like we're not talking about someone who has shown he's not a prospect. He's not
right.
Can we stop treating him like he's a kid? He's not. This guy is 220 games into an NHL career. He's played 59 games over the last 2 seasons, and he's got 4 goals and 10 points. He's playing at, like I said, the past 2 seasons, a 14-point pace thereabouts. I think it might even be worse than that. But it's not the Islanders giving up on a prospect. This is the Islanders making a roster move that if Oliver Wahlstrom was on the Winnipeg Jets, he'd be like, oh yeah, I remember when they drafted that guy. He did the cool thing on the internet a decade ago. Maybe the Islanders will kick the tires on him, but I don't, this is just your normal NHL player that gets waived. Talented, sure. Working out, no. Now he's the Bruins project, and we wish him the best. But this is the most frustrating bit about the Islanders and the Lou Lamoriello regime and everything is that Lou, there's so much to be mad at right now with the team and Lou and the way the team is run. There's certainly so many faults that he and mistakes he's made that if you want to go in on it, you can absolutely do it. And I'll hear that argument. I enjoy the Lou Lamoriello experience of being a team that's run by Lou and a team that's coached by Patrick Waugh, because I've ceded that I don't have any control over who's going to be in those positions. When the Islanders let go of Ted Nolan, I realized that how I feel about a coach or a GM or anything that has no bearing on who the team's going to hire for these roles. So I just choose to sit back and either enjoy it or not. And I'm enjoying it because I think it's fun and funny, and it's a very unique experience. That said, there's some shit that Lou does that pisses everyone off, and me included. Like Matt Martin, God love him. Why is he on this roster when they need to figure out a way to jolt it? Casey Cizikas isn't playing well. Maybe there's a way you can jolt the room by doing something. Maybe he's a guy that could go on waivers. There's a lot. The Pierre Engvall contract for sure. Who knows how the Scott Mayfield contract ends up going, but it's not going in the right direction. There's certainly stuff to be mad about. Yeah. I'm not mad about this, and I don't understand why anybody would be mad about this, because if this was Daniel Sprong, you'd be like, yeah, whatever. Like, he's not producing, so put him on waivers. He's not playing well. Did you see what he did on that Kevin Fiala goal? Cut him. The team needs to know that you got to be held accountable. At least some people do, and he was, and that's it. It's that simple. This is the stuff that just drives us up a wall, because there was like a tweet making the rounds on hockey Twitter about how a Senators fan was watching the game, I guess, and found out that Bo Horvat wears 14 for the Islanders and wasn't allowed to wear 53 because to honor his a friend of his who passed away, because Lou Lamoriello doesn't allow people over to wear numbers over 40, and that person didn't look up the fact that he's not wearing number 53 because there's another player that wears 50. You can't have two 53s on the ice at the same time. And people, instead of being like that, a lot of Islander fans are like, that's not true. A lot of other people are like, Lou he's a pig. Like, this is terrible. Like, get him out.
Yeah.
And this, I think, is a decent segue, like segue to what's going on with Robin Lehner. As we wrap up the show, you can find as many faults as you can with the way Lou's put together this team. That stuff is so out of control, weird, and projected. I don't even know what to say anymore. I know I'm shouting into the void with it. From the beards to the jersey numbers to all that stuff. Especially in this day and age, if the players didn't like the way that Lou Lamoriello ran the team or his rules, he wouldn't be here. The rules wouldn't be in place, but there's obviously something he does that they like, because they all go to bat for him all the time. And we saw that with a player who doesn't play for the Islanders anymore on Friday night in a very kind of sad way. But it was like just another reminder that the way that Lou is perceived by the way too online crowd compared to the, I don't know, more grounded, take a deep breath and think this through before you speak into the internet. It couldn't be more different. It just couldn't. Yeah. So, I mean, that was what made me more upset about anything with the Wahlstrom thing. I was like, oh, they failed another developed asset or whatever. It was, why are people mad at Lou? Like, this is a totally normal thing to do.
It's a totally normal thing, but the Islanders are totally abnormal team. But no, you're right. It's a little. Again, we've talked about this, like the public perception of Lou Lamoriello and the in league perception of Lou Lamoriello are two very, very different things. And obviously, we're not insiders. Like we proudly.
And if we were insiders, we'd be talking about how him and his head coach don't talk anymore.
Right.
They're in a high school feud.
Yeah, exactly. The team started playing better when they stopped talking, obviously. But we're fans. Like we only know what we read, and we can only react to that kind of stuff. We don't really have any inside information. But you don't need to be an insider to know the stuff that Lou does that makes players like him and want to play for him. And I mean, Josh Hosang, again, we brought him up, and I don't mean to. We love Josh. We don't want to I don't like using him as an example of a prospect that didn't pan out. But I mean, his career ended up being what it is. He did win a championship last year in the ECHL, so all things kind of, I guess, worked out to a certain degree. But he's a guy who people raked Lou over the coals for his treatment of. And even he doesn't have any bad things to say about Lou. Like, it's kind of crazy that all this kind of stuff that, Lou is a guy who players like to play for, that he will do things for. But, publicly, he's an old man, an old, bald, scowling man who nobody likes to have running their team, and they want him out of the league and stuff. And it's a weird spot for us to be in. I mean, if you're a Lou hater, I guess it's easy. But if you're one of us and you're just kind of like, as I told my friend Sam Fells in his newsletter this week, that this team needs a refresh. It's not going to happen until Lou is relieved of his duties. That's the honest truth. It's just not, because they've needed it for a long time and they're not getting it. And, at some point they're going to need one. And I don't know if he's going to be the guy to do it. And maybe maybe this is his last year in the seat. We don't know, but I know that when he is eventually let go and the team actually is eventually reset, I'm not going to look back on this and be angry about the Lou. I'm going to look back and remember that this was a good period that was undone by a little too much loyalty.
Not like the dark ages that they're going through in Manhattan with the two Eastern Conference runs and President's Trophy.
A little too much loyalty going on in this era, and it's cost them, because now these guys are kind of winding down. But that loyalty is something that a lot of players look towards and is comforting to them. And I totally understand that. And one of them, actually, as you mentioned, is a former Islander, Robin Lehner, who broke his silence this week on Twitter. There's also an article with him in the Las Vegas Review-Journal that you can seek out if you want. And, I'm not going to pretend to know what is going on 100%. These were very, very long Twitter messages and made people very, very worried, like us, for his mental health. And we hope that he's, finding peace and feeling better since those things. But selfishly, I would be lying if I didn't say that it didn't pop out to me that he mentions at one point how the only person to talk with him on a human level about family, about life, and not judge him for what he did before or what was going to happen was Lou Lamoriello, and how he truly loved his time on Long Island, and how the players and the fan base just, accepted him and his family and gave them all this peace and this happiness and, frankly, this success. I mean, we have to be honest about it, that he had been craving all this time. And a lot of that is due to Lou. And he, the breakup, he just called business. But even after that, he I guess stayed with Lou, in touch with them. Well, actually, he said that he lost contact with the players because he wanted the clean break. But he also mentioned that Chicago had treated him really well. But unfortunately, his experience with Vegas apparently was not good, which was, I guess, a lot of what he was writing. But in any event, this is a guy who you would think wouldn't have good things to say about Lou Lamoriello, but it sounds in a lot of ways that this was the only person he has good things to say about in this league, or one of the few good people. And so, again, above all else, we want Robin Lehner to have peace and find happiness, and especially at this time of year, any time of year, we want him to be okay. He's been hurt; he's not playing for Vegas. We don't know what his career is going to be, but I thought it was very telling that, again, Lou was the guy who he seemed to think and feel had his back and changed his career. And that was sort of like, how about that?
Right.
It's kind of a weird thing.
And it's not the story here.
No, of course
right?
not.
Like the story, like that's it's almost a little frustrating too, in a way. And I don't mean that flippantly, because it isn't the story. Like, everybody, we love Robin Lehner on Long Island. We love him. That game when he returned with Vegas a couple years after his stint ended because of COVID and the Blackhawks never came just because of the schedule, etc. That the ovation, it's legendary, and
Right.
he did a video, an interview on Spit and Chicklets a couple years ago where he talked about how Long Island saved his life and all this stuff. So there's a player that he won the Masterton Trophy, and he's I guess you can call him like the poster child for mental health in the NHL, at least during that era when he was playing, coming out and plainly saying that Islander fans and Lou Lamoriello, his words, not mine, saved his life, right? And this is why it was so frustrating for us as fans, that instead of focusing on that part of the fan base and the Islander fan experience, we always get the other end of the shtick, right? Which is very frustrating in a lot of ways. Like, oh, look at them throwing snakes and whatever. And here's somebody who's literally coming out, and you're supposed to rally around these kind of players and stories. And he's saying to everybody that Lou Lamoriello is a good man. Like, he's saying it. And nobody's going to pick up on that because that's just not how it works. Instead, they're going to focus on the beards and the jersey numbers and all the stuff that's really important here, right?
Right.
And like I said, I know that's not the story, but it is something that I just wish was picked up by people. Like, maybe Gord Miller should rethink his little tantrum he had with like the Anthony Duclair thing, and Scott Wheeler put his soapbox away for a little bit, and take this man at his word, because he's the actual person instead of people speaking for him, which is a lot of what happened with Lehner. It was a lot of people speaking for him, which is not what we want to do. We just want to, wish him the best because he means a lot to us. Like, he's one of our favorite Islanders ever, because he got it. Like, he walked into Nassau Coliseum, Barclays Center, and Iceworks, wherever they were practicing at the time. The first day he was on the island, he understood what it was all about and why we care so much. And very few players really picked that up right away like he did and connect with fans like he did. And partly it's because Lou must have done a good job representing what the values are of this team. And that's, in a weird way, this is why it sucks so much that the team is going the way it is because like, and everybody thinks they root for the good guys, but in a way, like what the Islanders represent to me is like the romantic side of sports. This is a community team, a suburban team, one that's supposed to pick you up and bring neighbors together at like a barn. And that's what the Islanders are. Like we always say, Long Island is on the crest of this team. Like it's right there. Every time Matt Barzal touches the puck, he's got Long Island on his jersey. And I want those guys to win because I want the Islanders, what they represent, and Long Island to win. And Robin Lehner, I think, just connected with that right away. So, for whatever reason, he's obviously going through some serious illness and trouble. And I just, like you, just hope to God that he's able to find peace and happiness. And I don't know, like it was really hard to read and really hard to sleep on Friday night because of that and the way we feel about Robin. Very like a completely, I mean, I feel connected to every Islander, like whether it's Travis Zajac or Cale Mullerath. Like once you're an Islander, outside of a very select few, like you're an Islander and we'll love you forever. But Lehner is in like a different kind of tier to almost any other Islander with the way that he connected and just understood the mission and what I think the Islanders are supposed to represent. Just all the best to him.
Yeah. And we're hoping for, an update soon to, know that he's okay and maybe he can shed a little light on what's going on. But it was hard to read. And it was like you were worried for this person. Again, he hadn't said anything in a long time, especially following, the way it happened with the Golden Knights where he was, I don't know how it worked, but basically, his cap hit was removed and we were like, well, how does that work? But
what's one other thing I because we're talking about the media and stuff, and this when this happened too, like I'm not blaming anyone for what's going on with him at all, because this is completely, mental illness is not something that so and so's fault because of an article that he feels this way or whatever. But I will say that, like, going back to the way the sport is covered and sports generally are covered, that we've now been conditioned as like fans not to think of players as like, oh, I like this guy because I like Matt Martin. I like Matt Martin because he makes $750,000 against the cap, and that's good value compared to his points per dollar. And that's how the sport gets covered now, because I mean, I think there's one outlet in particular that made this pretty mainstream and whatever, but and I understand that as fans, you gotta, especially in this day, like analysis, and every fan wants to like gloss over contracts and all that stuff. But there is a human being there. Like I'm not rooting for Robin Lehner's cap hit. I'm rooting for Robin Lehner. Like, and I feel like that is completely lost now. I think that the way the sport is covered, I'm not excited the Islanders traded for Bo Horvat because I like Bo Horvat, the player. I'm excited because they traded for him, and he's making $8 million against the cap, but he's averaging 84 points, and his GAR is 0.68 per 60, and that means he's good value. Like, no, I was excited because the Islanders got a good player, like I was when they got Thomas Vanek. Like, it's a new toy in a weird way, right? Yeah. And the further that the coverage of sports goes towards that other direction, where it's just stuff on a chart or a blob or whatever, I think the more that players will feel kind of, I don't know, not obviously Leonard's case is an outlier and an extreme case, but like I don't think that the connection between fan and player will be reparable if that's the way that the media, who once again is supposed to be the conduit between fan and team, covers the sport. So I just, and once again shouting it to the void. I hope that at some point that becomes the hockey and sports world, like, comes to its senses. Like, yeah, why are we talking about Seth Jones like this just because he's making $8 million? Right. It's not his fault. Like, he's just on the team. This isn't a big deal.
The thing that bothered me about Lehner really was the Hockey Night in Canada headlines segment, run by Elliot Friedman, mentioned the Lehner thing, and he was like, we've been trying to get in touch with him, but we just want to send out a message to Robin. If you can hear this, we're thinking of you and we support you and all. And all I could think of, and listen, I don't know Friedman. I listen to his podcast still. I read his works and everything, and I'm sure he meant well, but came off as being very disingenuous. And it's just like, it seemed like, okay, so you report on this guy not being on the Golden Knights cap hit in September, and then we don't hear about him. You never mention him again until this goes out. And oh yeah, by the way, like, now all of a sudden you care. Like, I don't know. Yeah. We hear more about some Leafs farmhand, and what his parents do for a living more than you guys have talked about Robin Lehner. Meanwhile, for us, literally for us, and I'm not trying to make it a contest again. The number one thing is that he's feeling better and is, getting a handle on whatever was bothering him, over the couple of days. We care. Like, we watch this guy. This guy means something to us. And so we really do care about his well-being. And we hope that he does find the peace and the happiness that everybody deserves and that he's looking for. And apparently, all things considered, like, he had it on Long Island when he was playing here, and we had it with him. And so we have an investment here. We have skin in the game, as his old coach Barry Trotz would say. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely not listening to this, but we do hope that Robin Lehner is okay. And I would never normally do this, but we just put out an episode of Weird Islanders, the podcast, last week with our friend Steve Smith about Victor Kozlov, who had a great game in December at Madison Square Garden. You may or may not remember, but our next episode was going to be scheduled to be about Robin Lehner, and it's going to come out a couple of days after Christmas. We're going to keep it there. We're going to, let it come out. Because again, we mainly talk with our guest. I won't reveal who the guest is, but he's another friend of ours. And we mainly talk about Lehner's time with the Islanders. And I think people will enjoy it because we care. Again, we have an investment in this man, and we hope that he's okay. And maybe he'll come back to the island one day and feel better, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that would be great, man. And once again, like, the way that he spoke about Lou, and you said it before about, like, the Wahlstrom thing. You could be 1,000% sure that when the Islanders and Lou Lamoriello saw Lehner's his tweets on Friday night, that they did what they could.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about, like rooting for the Islanders and liking being a Lou Lamoriello team, and the fact that everybody focuses on this like weird fetishization part of Lou rather than like the actual person that he is. And I can guarantee you that the Islanders are doing their best to help Robin Lehner in any way they can. And it's a weird thing for us because like you feel helpless in a way, like I can't do anything, you can't do anything except do what we're doing right now. And whether it's kind of being a little upset with the way that his story had been covered from especially the Vegas breakup and out, like, and I thought you brought up a great example, right? Like if we get enough coverage of what Fraser Mitten's high school teachers say about him,
right.
But we can't be, someone wasn't like, what's weird? Haven't heard from Robin Lehner in a couple of months since that Vegas thing, and might want to follow up on that because we do have a pretty well documented case of someone dealing with mental illness and addiction issues. Maybe someone should go check that one out rather than go chase Ryan Reeves' Pee-wee coach or something around Saskatchewan.
Right.
So I do feel like I said, this isn't anybody's fault.
Right.
But I do think that it sounds like Robin Lehner was let down, and that sucks because everybody knew what was going on before he was let down. And it just I feel sick about it, honestly, and hope for the best. And it would really make my my season if we found out that like he's doing all right tomorrow or whenever, because we really do care and still root for the guy. And he found a home here. It's
right.
And that doesn't get talked about. Once again, it's the other stuff they'll always make the headlines, like Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday night. I know we're playing there, but there's not going to be any talk about how the Islander fans wrap their arms around this guy who they didn't know, who shoved Kevin Poulin at the red line one game. And that was really the only experience Islander fans had with him. And we put our arms around him. He put our arms around us. But let's talk about how they're the only fan base that boos former players.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to say, you're going to hear a lot about how we booed one guy who doesn't play for the Islanders anymore, but not a lot about how we still love another guy or several guys who don't play for the Islanders anymore. But that's neither here nor there. But like I said, I don't know. We're not going to solve anything from where we are, but we want, we've been a bit of a stream of consciousness conversation here about this. But at the end of the day, we just hope Robin is okay.
Yes.
And his family as well is okay. So, we just hope for the best, and we'll see what comes in the future. Okay. We're going to wrap this up real quick. Like I said, we had an episode of Weird Islanders podcast come out last week. Check it out, about Victor Kozlov with Steve. We talk about that game against the Rangers at length where he scored 4 goals, and Brendan Shanahan had 3 goals. But as we conclude and come to a consensus at the end of that episode, fuck Brendan Shanahan. It's all about Victor Kozlov and his 4-goal game. And it was a great time. And check that episode out. This week at the Patreon, we have our mailbag episode being recorded on Monday. So the call for questions is going to go out Monday morning. Get your questions in if you're a Country Club tier member, and we will record that night. It's a bit of a quick turnaround, but yeah, we got a lot going on this week because we also have a Country Club atmosphere coming out towards the end of the week where we get our we had our episode last month, I should say, with our friend Michael Paul Smith, who stepped in for Mike, but Mike is going to be back now, and maybe we'll pick up some dad talk. Maybe we'll do something else. Who knows? Country Club atmosphere could be anything. So check out those over at the Patreon this week. Make sure you sign up at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety for ad-free episodes and bonus podcasts. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible.com, iHeartRadio. YouTube didn't want to post Weird Islanders, but I fixed it, so it's there now. But we are on YouTube Music as well. Please leave us a review where you can. Our theme song is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. Listen to more of their music on Spotify. Check out their new album, God Looks Out for Fools. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day for most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety Podcast are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Shop VintageLikeHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. I just wanted to shout out a listener who emailed me, who listens to the show with his son. They just started listening to the show this year. His name is Noah Mueller. Noah, thank you for the email. Thank you for listening. We're glad you found us. Whether you found us this year or 9 years ago, we're appreciative of all listeners. If you're still listening, shout out to you and your son. And we apologize for the cursing. I don't know how old your son is. You didn't mention it, but we had to let him out this episode. You know, it was a very long game this afternoon and brought up a lot of emotion. So we apologize. But thank you, Noah, for listening and reaching out. We really appreciate it. Michael Lieboff, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
Yes, thank you, Noah. You can find me at the Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. Any final thoughts on the many topics we covered here today, from bad losses to normal losses to excruciating personal losses to the loss of Oliver Wahlstrom on waivers? We've covered a lot here, but any final thoughts to wrap everything up?
No, I don't really have much else to add here. I mean, I'm not looking forward to another few games coming up, and
right.
I long for the days where we can be happy about the stuff that's supposed to make you happy as a hockey fan, and maybe they return soon, but I don't think so. So on that positive note, I guess we can end it.
Yeah. Even if they did, they wouldn't feel like it, right? That's been the whole point of this episode.
Right. That's like what I was saying about the power play. Oh, you scored a power play goal? That sucks, because that means you're not going to score one for another 3 weeks.
Right. So maybe we'll see. The Islanders only have 2 games this week. Maybe they can win both of them. Imagine that. What a crazy concept that would be. But chances are they'll probably just win one. In any event, we will be back next week. I know it's going to be Christmas week, but we'll be back on Sunday to see how the games against the Leafs and Canes shake out. And again, join over at the Patreon for Country Club Atmosphere and our mailbag episode this month. Okay? Thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.